And I think that, well, yes, I looked online, you saw the schools and so forth, but I think it's very important to be here and check out the schools. But no, I didn't really research it too much, and I didn't realise that you had to pay for school.
Ah.
You know, in the UK we don't pay for school. So when you come in and finding, obviously, that you have to pay for them to come to school, that was one of the things that was quite difficult. And school, it's very expensive, especially if you want them to go into an international school. It's quite expensive. It can amount to anywhere between £500 to £1,000 a term.
Yes.
So about 3,000 on average for the year. So it's very expensive, and just trying to find the right school as well can be quite challenging.
Sorry about that. We're having some technical difficulties still. Is it being sorted out? Yeah.
Well, I can just say that's very powerful that you did that you made that decision and made that kind of move. That's a big move.
Okay, so sorry, we were having some technical difficulties. So you're saying that when you came here, you realised you had to pay for the education, or from the UK when you researched, you found?
Well, because I was homeschooling anyway, it was one of the things that I wasn't really going to look at too much, because
You could homeschool in the Gambia.
I have a program of homeschooling, but obviously being here, and connecting with other people here there's other people who had brought their children to Gambia to go to school, so connecting with them, and I thought it would be good for him to go to school in Gambia, seeing peers like themselves and seeing the teachers. So I thought that would be a very good experience for him, and then decided, that's what I wanted him to do, because you can be here and it's like you don't want to learn, you just want to go to the beach, you just want to enjoy yourself all day in the sun. So we had about a month of relaxing and just chilling and bonding and being on holiday, and then it was okay. I think you need to go to school. I think you need to experience the school system here and be a part of that, because the experience in UK wasn't that great. So it'd be good for him to have it here.
So how do you go about trying to find a school for your son? How was that selection process?
The main thing, I think, was to look at the international schools, because when I told him we were going to go to school, he was like, I don't want to go to any Gambian school, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And obviously it had to be something that was familiar for him. So we went around and we had a look at a few schools, and he liked, as soon as we walked into, I think it was called Seabeck International School, obviously he liked that. It was like an American school, it was like out of the programs that he'd been watching. So yeah, he liked that school, and we went in, and he liked the surroundings, and then we'd met some other people that had got children here as well, and so got to know them, got to network with them, and they were going to school here as well, a couple of the international schools as well. So then it was a choice of there was Seabeck International and what's the other one called, Buckingham International School.
Right.
And I ended up picking Buckingham. It was slightly cheaper, and it was closer to where we were staying. And he actually liked school.
Yeah.
He liked school. He did. He enjoyed it. It was fun. And I think, obviously, a UK child in a school, it's like the novelty. So he was like Mr. Popular again, and girls. Yeah.
So in terms of the school fees then, what is the comparison between the school fees in the Gambia and the school fees in the UK?
Well, there's no school fees in the UK unless you're private schooling.
Right, so this is not private schooling, this is just normal schooling, and everyone pays.
Yeah.
So can you give people an idea, if you remember, of what the fees would be?
The fees, their terms are like 13-week terms. And let's say Seabeck, for example, was probably the most expensive. The term, it was working out about £500 for the term. But then there was like lots of different add-ons, like you might have books, study, uniform, canteen, and then so it could be anywhere between £800 and £1,000 realistically a term.
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and luckily for me, we didn't get in till, well, not lucky, but we didn't get in until, I think it was 5 to 6 weeks into a term. So I then asked for a reduction, and I got one.
And
So
you got one.
yeah, I did get one. I pleaded to the sister, and I was like, please, I didn't know we really had to pay here, and I didn't realise how expensive it was.
Yes.
And so I pleaded to the sister, and she said, okay, I'll give you a 40% reduction. The only issue was he was at school for about 6 to 7 weeks. And then Corona.
COVID-19 hit.
Yeah, so then there's no school.
So an international school, you're saying, in the Gambia costs between £800 to £1,000 per term.
Yes.
Okay. So if you sent your son to a Gambian non-international school, are there fees included there?
Yes, there's still fees. And obviously, again, being from UK or US, then they see that as, okay, you need to pay. So you would have to pay, but it probably wouldn't be as much as the international schools.
Oh, right. Okay. So so what you're saying is because you're non-Gambian, that's where the fee process comes in.
That's right, yes.
Right.
But the
okay.
Gambians, I think they still do pay for school, but
They pay for school, but a lot lower than if you're... Okay. And there's an application form process, and do they interview?
Yes, they do interview you. They also, what they did with my son is they assessed him, and the level wherever he was, that's where they placed him, which I think was really good, because it wasn't a case of saying, okay, you're at the time he was 12, it wasn't a case of saying, okay, you're 12, you should be in year 7,
Yes.
or whatever. He could have been really smart, really bright, and they could have tested him, and he could have been in a higher level. So
Yes.
what he would find is in the class that he was in, it could be all kinds of levels. There was boys that are 14 and 15,
Yes.
and they was in the same, level as him.
So rather than based on age, it's based on the level of education
Yes.
that your child has, which is not a bad thing,
It's
really.
not. No,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
It's not at all, because even in the UK, there was, they want to, just the way they are, they want to put you down, and you got to do another year, or you got to do this. But with them, it's more nurturing and just saying, well, look at where you need support, and we're going to support you from here. So, yeah.
Thank you, C. We're going to move on. Friends. 13-year-old boys have a lot of friends at school and in their neighbourhood. How easy has it been for your son to make friends in the Gambia?
Very easy for him to make friends, because it's that kind of boy, is a probably boy, and especially UK friends. With Gambian friends has been a bit difficult, and I think obviously that's due to language and barriers and so forth. But yeah, very easy for him to make friends, and he had a great time. And especially going out, say on the beach, especially with the UK people and that, he would be able to relate and just have a good time.
So those that might be coming to the Gambia that do not have that community, UK, they might be coming from the UK, but they're not surrounded by UK people, or even the US, and are in villages, or not surrounded by a community of people from the US. Do you think that might be more difficult then for a young child to make friends in the Gambia?
Yeah, because it's a bit of a culture shock as well for them sometimes. So it's quite difficult in order for them to sort of interact, because it's like, okay, they do a lot of things different, like they play football on sand, not on grass. So it's like, okay, shall I go and play with them? Yeah. So I find it a bit difficult to integrate. But I would always say, go and play, go and look, they're climbing a tree, they're doing this.
Yes.
There's so much more fun and so much more freedom. And they'd be reluctant at first, but then the way that they are, and they're just so loving and warm, and come and play, come and do this, and inclusive, then he would open up, and it's fine.
I definitely find that as well. The kids are just amazing in Gambia. They are, when they're young, they're out and they are so free.
Yes.
They're and they're so friendly, and just like they're in groups.
Yes.
And then you also, you get, it doesn't matter about the age, so you get a group of children, and there's the little tiny ones with them, and it's almost mummy. Sometimes mummy is played by a 7 or 8-year-old, and they've got the baby on the back, and they're out and they're playing, and they're having a good time. It's I love to see.
It's good.
Yeah.
And it's good to see the boys when they're sort of climbing up the trees and, you know, getting coconuts.
And the girls.
I haven't really seen much girls climbing up the trees at the moment, but
Absolutely. In our village,
But yeah, cashews, and the way that, you know, they know what to do every time something comes along, and you know. Yeah.
Do you want to say something, Rima?
Well, no, I was going to ask you something about the technical stuff.
Oh.
No, it's okay.
Ours is off. Sorry. Ours is off.
That's okay.
So, see.
Yes.
Rima's dealing with the technical side of things. So, see, would you recommend people to bring their children to the Gambia?
Yes.
And in terms of age, the little ones to the older ones, would you recommend that that's something that people should do?
With the younger ones, definitely. You know, especially in under the age of 9, I definitely see that. Well, you know what I mean? They're just free. But once they get older and they get tarnished by the system, and they're Wi-Fi junkies, and they're spoilt with so much sweets and fast food, it's hard to kind of then take them away from that. You know, once they've even gone to school, and you know when they go to school and they start learning all kinds of stuff that you didn't teach them, then it's hard to kind of take them out of that and then bring them here where it's totally different culture shock for them. So,
and it's quite a transition because there's differences. You talked about food.
Yes. Food is a big thing with my son. He's quite big and he enjoys his food. Yeah. You know, they used to like Fridays, because you know Friday's chip shop day or chicken and chip shop day, so it was like, okay, I'm getting my chicken and chips, so you know, S&S for £1 or something like that, or £2, you know, crap, but they knew, you know, it's like I can get it today. So here, no, they're not getting that regular addictive food.
So would you say it's healthier? Not happy healthy, but just
healthier, yes, I would say yes. Challenging at times, but healthier.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely.
Okay. Rima, is the technical bit sorted now?
I think so, yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, I'm listening all the time, and it's just very powerful. For some, first of all, it's just beautiful, the way that whole mothering. You know, you can be going about your life, working, doing whatever, socializing, but really you have this thing in the back of your mind about the best for your child.
100%.
And so just hearing you express that and how that's an overriding concern. You know, yeah, it's cool, the Gambia, but you're just thinking about what it's going to be like and how good it'll be for your children and for your son, you know. So that's wonderful. I know that's how it was for me with Africa. People used to ask me, you taking your children to Africa? You know, or you left them in Africa, you know, for 2 months or whatever, but it's only, I know that people were asking that because they really didn't understand.
Yes.
They don't understand. Like the things that you just said about the social, like the way the children come together, the way they play together. Eat together, yes. And those days they were eating lach. So everybody be at the bowl eating lach together. And my boys, when they were circumcised here, and the way my oldest son, I'll never forget, he said he had never had children to be so kind. He'd never experienced that kind of kindness. The way all the children they were there every day, because they used to go out to all the soccer fields and play and stuff, you know, of course they'd be home for lunch. But once that happened, the way all the children just showed up and the boys were there with them and helping to care for them, and just, you know, it was the way they took care of each other. They just had not experienced that. And he really, my oldest one, he was 8 and a half at the time, said he had never experienced that and he didn't want to leave Africa. You know? So.
In terms of language, is your son learning a language?
He learns a few words. He does learn a few words, and I notice, especially when he's talking to other Gambians, there's an accent. It's like, hey boy, or I can't quite do it, but you know, you can hear that the twang in his, you know, I don't know where to go, and I don't know, he puts on some things, and it's like, no, you need to learn to speak.
Puts on the Gambian accent rather than the language.
Exactly. But he has a few words.
Yes.
He knows girls and a few swearing words which he shouldn't probably know, but he knows them. And a few words, hello, greeting words and stuff like that. But yes, I think it's something that he does. He needs to learn the language.
Yeah. And in terms of like young people in the Gambia, because we know when we come on holidays, we see a lot of the children in the Gambia, and in the tourist areas, seems to be, and I always make references, is quite different to the villages. And in the tourist areas, I noticed that children are out on the street till a very late hours, and these are young children. Some of them are selling bananas and some of them are selling mint. I can't remember what the Mandinka word is for mint. The leaf. They call it something else when they're selling it. Nana. So they're selling nana on the streets in the tourist areas, and people have raised quite concerns with that. But they're out quite late. In the villages, they have to be in bed by a certain time, and they're not to be far from the compound. The parents need to know where they are. I remember the other day we were in Khartoum, and it was quite early, it was about 5 o'clock, and this little girl showed us where the beach was. And we were away for about 15 minutes, and our mother was concerned, where is she gone? I hope she hasn't gone to the beach by herself. So in the villages, children are in, and they're in bed and by a certain hours. So it's very different. So at the moment, you've spent a lot of time in the tourist area with your son.
Yes.
But you're going to live out of the tourist area. How do you think the difference is going to be with your son?
With my son, he's not interested in the deep going deep into the village. He's really not, because it's a case of there's not much in the tourist area anyway. So what's going to be in the village? That's going to be something that he's going to take a time to get through to. But if you have everything in the compound that he needs, like swimming pool, good Wi-Fi, lots of food or other things, it might block it out, but it's difficult. So that's why at the moment I'm kind of closer to the city.
It may be different, but it might be better.
It will be better
because he might immerse more into the culture. And what I see in the villages is that the young people are quite nurturing, so they might take him and show him some real good bits. He might learn the djembe drumming and the language more. Probably learn the language.
Yeah.
Is that your experience as well?
Yeah, they may welcome you, or you might get a different experience. My experience, what I see around, we were talking about it earlier, how around the areas, the tourist areas, even the mentality of the locals is different.
Yes.
It's different. So he'll probably get a lot more warmth and more engaging youth, like you were saying, So,
and it's more for me, I find it's more of a community.
Yes.
I live in a village, and it's very community, from the older age, elderly, to the young ones. Everyone's got something to share. You can sit with an elderly person. If you don't know the language, you can have an interpreter, and you learn a lot about the elderly people's journey. I know a lady in Medina Salam, I think she's 100, and it's amazing hearing her journey, where she's come from Guinea-Bissau, Senegal, back to Gambia, and it's enriching understanding, because there's one thing I find is talking to a lot of Gambian people, they don't seem to ask a lot of questions of their elderly relatives. So there's a lot they don't know. Now, we're brought up, especially Caribbean, we ask loads of questions. We want to know. Before our relatives die, we want to know their whole life stories so that we can pass them on to our children. So we are storytellers. But in Gambia, they had storytellers like the griots. And I know we can't see Mello on camera, but Mello, do you feel that is something that's dying out in the Gambia, the griots and the storytelling from the griot to their children and their children's children and ongoing?
Very well. Thank you very much for that wonderful questions. Like you just said, those are things. The history of our of where we live, like Africa, in our communities, most of them are preserved with the elders. So it is only when you engage them, have a deep chat with them, they will talk to you more about the past.
Yes.
But then nowadays the problem is the youths are so busy and feel like, spending time with the elderly to know what has happened in the past, it doesn't worth it, and the history is really fading now. It is only those willing who really wanted to dig into the history more, like media outlets and all that. Those are the ones that will eventually go to the elderly to dig out some of the histories that has been hidden.
And it's very, very important, and I would encourage Gambian young people to spend time with their elderly and to find out, to be honest, I don't think they mind answering questions, and they like to talk. Like my grandmother in the UK is 102. She remembers everything from she was 4 years old, what school she went to, what shops she went. She remembers everything, and she loves to talk. That's probably where I get it from. But
It's a good thing.
but the elderly people here in the Gambia, they love to talk too.
Definitely, they love to talk, but then the problem is they are left so aside. Younger generation like my age and going down don't feel like engaging them into. We feel like sometimes some will even say like, you talk too much. Like the grannies, there is a kind of like that jovial relationship between grandsons and daughters. Even if they want to tell you something very important, you feel like, they have nothing good to offer.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so, but then it is very important for us to, go back and know what has happened in the past.
Yes.
Dig into our roots, our cultures, our heritage that has been here before.
Yes.
Yeah, so now this style is like westernized more than, what we normally live in the past.
Yeah.
Need to deal with Sankofa. Sankofa, which is to return.
Therefore, I'm solo that.
Yes. Thank you, Mello.
Thank you.
Therefore, I'm solo that we find ways to encourage the youth to shift that attitude, because if we don't do that, then we'll continue to have someone else teaching our children and introducing a past that isn't really reality. So we have to have platforms like this and other platforms where we put that out there and really encourage the youth to shift that.
And I think it's also important when young people are coming from abroad, either children from Gambian parents and also non-Gambian parents. I think it's important to align yourself with families, elderly as well as uncles and aunties. It's so important. So it's nice to be around our own community from England or the US, but we're in a different country, and to understand the culture, you have to live in it.
Yes.
And I've learnt the most from being in families and talking to families and interacting and eating and drinking and just spending time with families. And I think the community move that you will make your son feel like he's more within a family if you align yourself with a family. And you can even take on a family's name.
Well, we have a family that we kind of hang out with a lot, and especially when they've had lots of different traditions like Ramadan, Tabaski and so forth. They make sure, he's included in that. When it comes to, especially if there's food involved, he's down with that. So they make sure he loves his benachin. It's got to be the red one, and chicken. But yeah, he makes sure that we're included in certain things. So we've been around the ceremonies and so forth, and he has to have an understanding of what it's about. So we try to we'll ask questions and try and have an understanding of what the celebration's about and how things actually go. And he enjoys that.
That's good. Well, we're going to have a bit of a break, short break. Thank you for joining us on Black Table Talks Gambia, Empire Radio 1, the People's Radio Station. Remember, write in, ring in on our WhatsApp number and interact with us. Thank you. And again, apologies for the technical difficulties in the beginning. Tell me when we're offline. And you can't see us anymore because they can still see us, can't they?
It's funny when you said wake up.
What was that?
kalo bante dalale ite membe sidin sokone katu mira la wato wate ibe credit ko soto la nyandele aussi connections manda nopal credit wa fo damala ika iodized salt fana wa fali yene menketa koti nka mendo mo luolu ndeni te be yal nako do mo ronene te do mo la mukko ko mamma be dami annu aussi connections bukan nan ko doron ko wa fali made ika kole wa fi ko me yalon ko ay iodine le soto hani na jata kende ya bunda fango ye wole nyandi ko nyanta ka wole do mo katu wole bete ata na jata kende yato ko e boro soto menketa ayodinti anyinyata anda ko ko italew nyin ko le mu koti menyanta kado mo luwolu ni ka ko do me yalon ko ama ayodin soto asatin ne isi kufo soto ikangoto waran asibale suto sinola asidinno wala mengo nasindi asike mo hakilu ko ma bati karam ngoto fana wotadi fere ke alkari aussi connections la ko sa me yalon ko way ayodin soto le membe tankala nyimbela aussi connections man nan ko wa fo fananto e ka approve service transfer fanan kali yenne ni e kodo ki yenan ka bo bantala bankoto isite la kodo tano jele ka tambi approve service transfer la aussi connections ko kanyin kali yenne luwolu e bukatili sawonde e kayelali yeso manda talanse kata fo talan konon to suto tenelungo kata fo arjuma lungo talanse somanda kata fo talanse suto sibito anindi maso aussi connections allafta fere ndilon na memman kenyinta ali ka tanyo ya ila telephone to bang 7957815 waran 3434260 aussi connections allafta nopal credit la wato wati ko sengo me yalan ko abete ata na jata kende yato ani approve service transfer kodoto ali ka tanyo ya aussi connections ali mutaterity
connections, and I'm here to talk to some of their customers about their services. Let me see who first I'm going to see. Hello, guy. How are you?
I'm fine.
What's your name?
My name is Anthony Dow.
What brought you to OC?
I'm here for services like money transfer, and I do come here as well for mobile top-up.
Okay.
And Navet top-up as well.
Thank you very much. How would you rate their services?
Their service is excellent, fast, and instant. I would say instant, because you come here and you get your money right away. You don't really feel it. Okay. And sometimes I've developed a relationship with them where I would send them my reference number.
Okay.
And they'll prepare all the money for me, and I'll just come and pick it up like that. And that is approved services.
So with them you have no problem at all?
No problem. They're excellent.
Thank you very much.
Badingol company mi ka fay ko Red Star family Gambia dingol letamu ibale gumur sate kono jang karamba kunda loptan sila bakang wala nata ke nyonta to do ko fason jamala fo inin lojo lu karambolu community pakolu anamdula jamaka do ko ke folo e motol so kamin lo wasi jamalia animo kilin nalia kala moto tinya ne on cika silol kanke sama allafte sama dawo da o montolia kundinete ko Red Star family hanimbi ka jamada hande Bahama Soul Trim anim fanan lasik lam masingul fanan bebu nal sulla talasiro fasawo fasana imanda woda malade luas fen jamal fanan be bulu min yalanko e ka wolle fanan luas molia wedin sirangolo ini tabulu nyimalu jilere tibalu lampu jango min sa fanan duro ke dula janna anim fanan selen dama min be jam farin adum be betarin fanan nko abeta satana nojam lal lafta doku cinema doku kenema anim doku betemala alta Red Star family ka chanje ya nyin number to 9911353 4486841 email redstarfamilycompany@gmail.com 9911353 4486841 email redstarfamilycompany@gmail.com
Lot of money.
thumbs up when you're ready.
Ready?
Hello and welcome back to Black Table Talks Gambia on Empire Radio 1, the People's Radio Station. Now, again, I apologise to those who could not log in. We had some technical difficulties in the beginning, but I hope you're joining us now and finding it very interesting. We want to hear your questions, though. We're talking to C. Now, C has brought her 14-year-old son. Oh, 13. I've given a year on him.
12 at the time.
She's brought her... Okay, C brought her 12-year-old son to the Gambia. He's now 13, so he's had a birthday in the Gambia. We'll talk about that. And we've been talking to C about the education system, socialisation, the language, and all of the other areas that we would need to know in terms of bringing a child to the Gambia. Now, we're going to go back to talk about the education system. How did you find the differences in your son going to a Gambian school, an Gambian international school, in comparison to being in an English school?
It's a lot more relaxed here. It's definitely a lot more relaxed, and the classes are a lot bigger. And again, as I said, you're going to have different ages in the class, so there's that. The lessons and the subjects that they teach are kind of on par with the UK system, because it's like a UK curriculum. So that was a little bit disappointing, because we needed...
So you're running away from that, and you seem to have come to that.
Yeah, so that was one of the things, because there's not much, as I say, Black history or African history being taught.
Okay, so let me come back. We had a question from a Danielle, and Danielle is saying, is Black history taught in Gambian schools? What educational benefits do children get from schooling in the Gambia compared to the UK? I'll let you answer that.
Okay, because I really only experienced it for about 2 months. I would say no, there's not much African American Black history being taught in the school, and I'd say it's a lot more relaxed in terms of the subjects. You know, they'll probably do about 8 subjects in the UK through the day. They'll probably do about 4 or 5 here. So you do get a bit more time, but I think it's a very relaxed attitude towards it, as opposed to kind of being more regimented, and even the homework that I found that okay, where's homework? Did you get homework today? And there was not much homework. It's right. Kind of, and there's your textbooks, kind of be more independent, as opposed to kind of being on them and stressing them out, which you find the UK system does. There's not enough time. You have about 45 minutes in the class, and then they'll go to the next one, then the next one, and then they're given homework for every day. So definitely a bit more relaxed, but not strict and not regimented in terms of pushing an agenda. I think like I said, you've got different levels in the classroom, so it's more down to the child.
Because in the UK, it's Black History Month, and we're celebrating Black History Month in the UK at the moment. And we're pushing for Black history to be taught in the schools. And it's Black African history we are pushing to be taught in the school. So when we come to the Gambia, an expectation is that the Black African history is taught from primary level all the way through to secondary to university in the schools in the Gambia. And you're saying that in your experience it's not there. It's not there.
Not there at all. So that's what's quite disheartening and quite frustrating. And also the language, they're not allowed to speak a language in the school. They're tribal languages. So you want to go to school and get them to learn like Wolof or Mandinka at school, but
so those languages are not taught in school. I've spoken to some of the little ones, and they've said we're not allowed to speak any language in school, even in the playground. If they speak a tribal language in the playground, they say they get sanctioned. So they're only allowed to speak English in the schools. Now, guys, we want to hear from you. What is your experiences? We want to hear from the Gambians that are abroad and also the Gambians in Gambia. What are your experiences of this and what are your thoughts? Rima, how do you feel about it?
I think that's extremely sad. If anyone remembers what happened in South Africa when the youth actually protested, the youth came out and went to the street by the hundreds of thousands, possibly millions, into the streets and protested. And that was when that famous shooting of the first shooting was a young boy. They were protesting so that they could speak their languages in the schools. They were refusing it. So, and especially us trying to return and come back in the school is actually such a very important part of a youth's life, because you're not only taking several hours of their day, but you're taking several wake hours of their day. And also school the system is in a very influential position. So if you're going to an educational institution which renders it, wrong for you to speak your local language, that's really sending a very powerful message to the youth population, and I'm very sad to hear that, And I hope that we can all be playing a part to make sure that changes. That's not something to just sit on, because
100%.
a part of the reason that we're here, we're not only here just because of the peace and because of those things, we're also here to participate in shifting and making changes better for all of us Africans from this position, from this place, the Gambia.
A level of empowerment is definitely needed, and even these topics that we're bringing up, when you having the discussions with the Gambian about it, they're really deep in it and thinking, actually, you're right. They don't think about certain things, but when we say, like, actually, you should be this, should be that, then they say, yeah, actually, you have a point. It's like the culture's trying to be taken away from them, and, we're coming back for the culture and it's going the other way.
Yes. And maybe a part of that, but maybe a part of that is if you've been in a culture, we talked before about not asking questions. So maybe a part of that is being in a culture where you don't ask questions and you don't challenge. But now people are changing, people are challenging, the young people are so into politics as well, but people are challenging, and maybe the challenges need to be from the education system upwards, because it's important in Africa and in Gambia that the children get a good education so that they can compete with a worldwide market. And some children in the villages and up country, their education is quite poor. So for them to then leave school, I spoke to quite a few children. I said, what do you want to do when you leave school? Or when you finish school, they say, I want to be a teacher. And I'd say 85% of the children I spoke to say that. And I said to a young girl once, why did you say you wanted to be a teacher? And she said, it's the only job that I know. And then she said, if I get my teaching qualification, I can do any other job later on. But we're told that it's important to get your teaching qualification, and then that can lead on to other things. So I know that in my community, I did have some vehicles. And what I did with the drivers, I said at least once a month you have to take the children out so that they can actually see what they want to be when they grow up. Some children have never left their village, and when I say never left their village, and it's not a bad thing in a sense, because in before this day and age, people didn't leave their villages. But if a child has never seen a judge or a lawyer or a solicitor, doesn't really know what one is, how do they know they want to be that? So then you get children that live in the certain areas of the city or the towns that do those jobs, and those in the villages don't get the chance because they don't know about it.
Or been educated about it.
Yeah, I was, I've met quite a few Gambians and Africans in general that are really on that page about shifting the education. And also, there are many Africans that I've met here in the Gambia, as well as other places, that are really not for the tracking system that they have in the schools, where they track youth to different careers. So there are those that are seeing the need for the change, even the language. I was talking with Akon's brother-in-law, and he was adamant about, the school that their fathers had for
This is in Senegal.
school that they've had about them, the language thing. It was a question of the language thing, of them, actually having at least one local language in the school. So I'm just saying that to say that there are Africans that are here on the ground that are seeing that not only the language but the shift in the education altogether, like we were talking initially about history being in there. There are people here in the Gambia that are on that.
And I think the government is looking at introducing local languages in the schools, and it is very, very important.
And correct history. Even I was thinking that when we were talking earlier about the African history. So it's not only about African history, but it's actually about correct global history, correct world history, and not this shifted, falsified history, which is designed and set up in a way that it actually blocks any teachings of how rich Africans were prior to colonization, in order to justify that whole scene of colonization and the influx of the imposition of culture that was put on us.
Very true. Very true. I mean, the reason I talk about African history is that we were robbed in the UK, and my philosophy is we need to know our story. We need to know our story before we know his story. And we've been taught his story, which is been changed anyway, and we don't know our story. So I think in the schools it's important for us to know our story first, so that we are empowered, and then later on we can learn his story.
100%.
Okay.
And
Africa, there's how many countries in Africa?
There are 54.
54.
But that's if we stop there.
54 countries in Africa. So when we're learning our story, there's a lot to learn before we start
We're still learning,
yes.
African history is world history, because the Africans have migrated around the world. We populated every place on the planet. So African history is world history, and we were travelers, we were migrators, we were traders, we were educators all over the world. Yeah. So,
and with 54 countries, you don't need to leave the continent. If you travel around 54, I mean, that's a lot of countries to go through. Excellent. But thank you, C. Is there any questions that you would like to ask C,
yes.
Rima?
I wanted to ask you, what did you find most challenging about bringing your son here?
Most challenging, it's finding things to do. Finding things to do is probably the most challenging, and especially in this time during Corona, it's more challenging as well.
Definitely.
There's not many places for them to go. I mean, you can have fun at the beach all day long, but there's only so much of that you can do, and now so much swimming you can do before you get bored. The only other places like Q City, where they can go, where there's a lot of things there, there's a lot of activities there. It's kind of like a glorified community centre. You've got lots of other activities they can do there and interact with other people. I think that's where he found a lot of his friends, or met a lot of his friends, and a lot of people knew him. And you have the social, like Instagram and so forth, so then people would add him and say, oh, I saw you at Q City, and add him. So that's good. But then now that's one of the most challenging things. There's nowhere to go much, and it just gets quite bored, I'm afraid. And also the challenges with electric. Like you would know.
Are we going to use the N word? The electricity word.
Now work.
Now work, as they say in Jamaica. Now work.
It's called now work, isn't it? But
we've got an electricity company in the Gambia called Now Work.
It's called now work. We call it now work. So that's one of the, the challenges that I had to. Okay, the first time it happened and the electric would gone out, especially during rainy season, and it went for hours. And then everything drains down. There's no phone, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no computer, and so forth. So first couple of days or week of that happening, it was quite challenging. But then, we'd make a point of, okay, make sure everything's charged up, or that time we would have more for ourselves.
Yes.
You know, we'd sit, we'd bond, we'd
Bring out the candles.
Bring out the candles, go through the phone, go through some pictures, reminisce, and, you know, so that was one of the challenges I had to kind of navigate through and make it work for us. And, you know, now it's cool. It goes out
I remember when I first started coming to the Gambia, we had no electricity.
Yeah, that was difficult. Yeah.
And you say
You
that
still
that
don't.
must have been difficult. No,
Right.
no.
No,
See,
we're
the
teasing
guys,
her,
they're
but
laughing at me.
it's
But
better.
I'm going
It's
to say to you that we have solar electricity, and these guys come up to see me in my village, and they laugh at me saying, "Oh, you've got solar electricity," and I'm not even joking. When I go to see these guys in Bruford, I spend more time with no electricity.
It's actually the way
I
to
think
go.
I spent days sometimes with no electricity,
Yeah.
and it comes on, and you can hear everybody in the neighbourhood go, "Yeah!" And then all of a
Plug
sudden,
everything in.
all of a sudden, everyone go, "Oh!" And everyone's on Facebook and social media saying, "What's going on with the electricity?" But you see, when I'm looking on Facebook and everyone's complaining about the electricity, we have electricity. So I would probably say a combination of the two, but solar,
That's the way to go.
all the way.
Yeah, definitely.
All the
Off
way.
grid. And plus, that's what we want.
Alternative energy.
That's what we want. We want to be off grid right now anyway, and that's the way we're heading. So, you know, it helps you learn things and realise, okay, that's what I'm going to do, and so forth. So it's one of the challenges that we need.
But going back, what I was saying is when I first came to the Gambia, in our compound, we had no electricity or solar. And we literally sat under the stars and we talked.
Yeah.
So everybody in the village just sat around and talked. And again, people in the village, a lot of people still don't have solar.
Yeah.
And they do the same, they talk. And what I find is the more electricity is introduced,
Yeah.
the more television
Yeah.
is introduced.
Programming.
And
Yes.
those things kind of alienate. A
talking.
lot of times in the UK, our children are in the house, in their bedrooms, on the TV or the laptop and playing computer games, and the socialisation seems to be dwindling away, and I would hate to see that happen in the Gambia.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons as well. My son was addicted to this PlayStation, Fortnite, these games that they would have, and I just didn't like it, especially when you would tell him to come off the PlayStation. It would be, oh, in a minute. And you know, when it finally came off it, because you got to remember, they need to, they're so wired that they then need to sort of de-wire. So here, he hasn't had it so much. And I think he's now, okay, all right, I realised that I used to be on this too much, and it used to take up a lot of my life. And now, we're being here, like, I will allow him to go out, like, you know, he can go out, can be out a little bit later than he used to be in the UK. And I'm not worried. I'm not as worried as I used to be, because I just know here there's that greater sense of community. So when he goes out, it's fine. You know, I know I don't need to worry so much, and he can come back that little bit later, and everyone's looking out for everyone. And it's a lot darker as well, but he's fine, and he likes that, you know.
That's great.
I've not seen such darkness. And do you know what? People that they're on the street, I can't see a thing. And I don't always need glasses. Well, I need glasses to read. Other than that, I don't. But I can't see anything. And I'm walking with somebody, and they're like, "You're right, Lamin." And I'm like, "Lamin, where? I can't see any." But they know. They know people's outline, their walk, their shape. And now they're used to me. They're like, "You're right, V." And I'm like, "Who said that?"
Who's that? You know, they start having a conversation with you, like, who are you?
I've never seen such darkness as I've seen.
And on the contrary, they're saying with the moon is so bright sometimes. It's almost like you can just see everything. Right.
I'm in awe of the moon here. I don't know if anybody noticed, I was having this conversation, but the moon is above you.
Yes.
Like it will be like in the middle of you, and it's like, we don't see that. And so, especially when it's a full moon, the full moon lights up everywhere. And that in itself is just so amazing. You know, in the UK, we look up, we don't see much stars. But here, you look up and you see stars and the brightness. And
It's beautiful.
it's
isn't
so
it?
beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and just even hearing the trees flap around in the night and seeing them in the night, and then the creatures and different things making different noises. Like now with the rainy season, the frogs.
Do you know, we talked before about offline, we talked about children. We're like little children in the Gambia. Oh my gosh, I think myself and Rim were having a conversation that children in the West a lot of them don't know where their food comes from.
Right.
Some children don't even know a chicken is a live animal.
Yeah.
So when we wake up in the morning to all these, I mean, I've seen birds I've never seen before. You know, there are birds, there are chickens, there are, what is that creature that crossed the road? It looks like a crocodile.
Salamander.
Salamander. And I had to stop the car, and the salamander, it looks like a huge crocodile, just crossed the road, and we waited for it to cross the road. You know, even the cows on the road. And
they're superior.
The amount of animals that
They're
you
superior, you
see,
said.
that it's a learning, you know, David Attenborough, it's real life here. And I see all these things that I learn on the television, and this is real life, and it's just amazing. And for children to see this, children in the West, our children to come and see this in Africa, now you can see probably why you don't need so much time in the classroom, because everything when you go out there is a learning, and it's
100%.
visible. In a book, you're reading it and you can't see it. You can only try and visualize it. But here you can see it and you're learning all the time. We just need the theory
100%.
to match that. But being outside is just amazing.
It is. And so you life lessons, you learn things, and I think that's one of the things that for my son as well, it'd be like, okay, go out and explore and learn things, and you know, even with the agriculture and growing and seeing how, you know, the children do certain things and the things that they're selling, and they're being entrepreneurial as well, and also creating that entrepreneurial mindset for him as well is what we do, especially now that there's no school. When we try to do back to the homeschooling, but he likes to work. So he'll go on the compound and he'll go with the builder, and he will, you know, likes knocking down walls, he likes making the cement, he likes making blocks. So he's learning, so he's actually getting to learn a trade, and to be an entrepreneur.
And children here learn trades. They definitely do. I talked about children in the West in their bedrooms, but children here learn trades. Today we went to the mechanic shop with a car, and it is young children that, you know, they've been apprenticed for a long time, and now they actually can do the car themselves. We talked last week, I think, about the metal men. Young children are learning to make the gates. This is where there is money in Gambia, and these young children are going to make their money because they're learning to be carpenters, electricians, and the like, and it's amazing because, again, you know, children don't learn those things in the UK unless they've got a parent who has that trade.
100%. Yeah.
Did they used to learn those things in the UK
As children? Really, no.
Because that's our experience in the U.S. is different. We used to, you know, children learned all of that. You know, they learned to, like we were talking earlier, they learned to drive early. They learned different trades early. You know.
I think ours are 16, from 16
But it's in the
up.
South. It's now people migrated to the cities, and everybody's in those big urban areas. And I was thinking the same thing when you were saying that about cows and chickens. Even when I came with my family, when my mother brought us to California, we had chickens in our backyard. I grew up with chickens in my yard. That's why when I saw the chicken yesterday, I was like, I'm not interested. I don't want something out of a packet. I need a real chicken. Because that's what we grew up with. So that's interesting, because the children today in the U.S., they generally don't have that experience too, just like what you're saying in the UK. So, you know, coming here, like my sons, they may have had a little bit of it, but only coming to Africa did they have that, the merging of life all around you. You know, what you're eating is right in your yard. Even I remember one time my boy, he was about 11, and he said, Mama, you know, that lamb, it was my friend. You know, and they killed the lamb and ate it. You know, it's like, but it was good. But it was his friend.
I've got a question for you, C, from Lorna. She says, thank you to the lady who brought her son to the Gambia. Please, if possible, can you find out why our African history is not taught in your son's school?
I think the reason, we kind of all know the reason why, really, you know. It's part of the system. It's to dilute it out now, isn't it? Really?
It's a residual from colonial curriculum. So the missionaries who were running the schools, everything that missionaries did in the educational institutions throughout Africa had to be signed off by the colonial powers elsewhere. So before they could introduce a curriculum in Gambia, it had to be signed off by the colonial powers. And unfortunately, we're still utilizing those old colonizers' curriculums, which can change, and it doesn't have to be a great effort, just what do you call it, a quantitative desire for us to make that change.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what we can look at, especially like I said, homeschooling, we can come here and homeschool still, and then we can create that homeschool network, because there's more, you know, more of us that are coming here, so 10, 15 children, we can create that. There's teachers coming here, there are teachers that are not working, you know, so it's finding and building that network, I believe, that we can do.
It's very true, but also we're integrating into the Gambia, and it's also looking and challenging the school system here. We don't want just our children with a better education. We need the schools to offer the African history and a good education to set the children up 100%. So that they can actually, as I said before, take part in the globe, do business with the globe, and be entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurialism is amazing in the Gambia, but the business acumen is a little bit different. The theory behind the business is different, and that's where I think UC was saying earlier, we can come in and support people in setting up and running the businesses. There's a lot of business people out there, young people, and all they need is the marketing, the support, the organisational skills, and the knowledge on how to run a business.
One of the things for me here was the potential. Just seeing so much potential, but again, like you say, it's the empowerment. It's, you know, the little things that's needed, the customer service, just the little things that you can empower people with here and help to build the business and the infrastructure. That's what I think here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great.
So
let's have another short break, and we'll come back at you. But thank you.
OC Connections mbadi OC Connections bali gunjur ton table ika service jamale kali kabirin nopal credit wa folem bam fay lafta jamale bam fay lafta kilin talla nko jakalo bante dalale ite membe sirin sokne katu mira la wato wate ibe credit ko soto la nyandele OC Connections manda nopal credit wa fo damala ika iodized salt fana wa fali ene menketa koti nka mendo mo luolu ndeni te be yalno ko domoro ne te domola muk ko mamma be dami annu OC Connections bukan nanko doron ko wa fali made ika kola wa fi ko me yalon ko ay iodine le soto hani na jata kende ya bunda fango ye wole nyinyandi ko nyanta ka wole domo kato wole bete yata na jata kende yato ako e boro soto menketa iodine ti anyinyata anda ko ko italew nyinko le mu koti menyanta ka domo luolu ni ka ko domo me yalon ko amang iodine soto asatine isi kufo soto ikangoto waran asibale suto sinola asidinno wala mengo nasindi asike mo hakilu ko ma bati karam mo to fana wotadi fere ke alkari OC Connections la ko samme yalon ko way iodine soto le membe tankala nyimbela OC Connections man nan ko wa fo fanando e ka approve service transfer fanan kali yenne ni e kodo ki yenan ka bobanta la banko to isite la kodo tano jele ka tambi approve service transfer la OC Connections ko kanyin kali yenne luwolu e bukatili sawonde e ka yelali yeso manda talanse kata fo talan konon to suto tenalungo kata fo arjuma lungo talanse somanda kata fo talanse suto sibito anindi maso OC Connections allafta fere ni lonna memman kenyinta ali ka tanyo ya ila telephone to bang 795-7815 waran 3434260 OC Connections allafta nopal credit la wato wati ko sengo me yalan ko abete ata na jata kende yato ani approve service transfer kodoto ali ka tanyo ya OC Connections ali mutaterity
Connections, and I'm here to talk to some of their customers about their services. Let me see who first I'm going to see. Hello, guy. How are you?
I'm fine.
What's your name?
My name is Anthony Zhao.
What brought you to OC?
I'm here
Connections
for services like money transfer, and I do come here as well for mobile top-up.
Okay.
And now top-up as well. Power.
Thank you very much. How would you rate their services?
Their service is excellent, fast, and instant. I would say instant, because you come here and you get your money right away. You don't really feel it. And sometimes I've developed a relationship with them where I would send them my reference number.
Okay.
And they'll prepare all the money for me, and I'll just come and pick it up and that is approved services.
So with them, you have no problem
No
at all?
problem, they're excellent.
Thank you very much.
Badingol company mi ka fay ko Red Star family Gambia dingol letamu ibali gunjur sate kono jang karamba kunda loptan silaba kan wala nata ka nyantawti do ku fason jamala fo ni lojo lu karambolu community pakolu anamdula jabaka do ko ke folo e motol sudai kamin luwasi jamalia ani mo kilin nalia kala moto tinyan ni ci ka silol kan ke samba allafte samba dawo da o montolia kundinete ko Red Star family hanimbi ka jamada hande Bahama Soul Trim anim fanan lasik lam masul fanan bebulu nal sulla talasiro fasawo fasonna imanda woda malade luas fen jamal fanan be bulu min yalon ko e ka wolle fanan luas molia wedin sirangolo ini tabulu nyimalu jele ci balu lampu jango min sa fanan duro ke dula janna anim fanan selen selen dama min be jam farin adum be betarin fanan nko abeta satana no jam dal lafta do ku cinema do ku kenema anin do ku betemala alta Red Star family ka chanjo ya nyin number to 9911353 4486841 email redstarfamilycompany@gmail.com 9911353 4486841 email redstarfamilycompany@gmail.com
Stay care about the money and fame. All I need is the love, not the game. Cause my glory will be covered with same. Don't wanna end up in a very big.
Thank you and welcome back to Black Table Talks, the Gambia. I'm Jamaica V and you're listening to Empire Radio 1, the People's Radio Station. Now I'm talking to Rahima and to C. Now we've just had a discussion. C has brought her 13-year-old son to the Gambia to live. And we've just had lots of questions and lots of discussions, and C has given us some insightful information of bringing her son to the Gambia. Now, on the link, the live link, even after the show is finished, you can still ask questions, and C and others can answer those questions. So if you have any questions about bringing your young children or your older children to the Gambia, whether you're a Gambian coming back or whether you've never lived in the Gambia, but you've decided it's your home, then please ask questions. You can also phone in or write into the WhatsApp number and ask questions as well, and we can put them on the thread. But thank you to everybody that's contributed, and thank you to C and Rahima as well. Now, the next topic we're going to cover, and I think this one might go over until another day as well, because we started quite late due to technical difficulties. Now, the next topic, we had an email from a lady, and she's wanting to come to the Gambia from the US. And she asked us quite a few questions, and one of them is, I'm a single woman. So what is it going to be like for me coming to the Gambia as a single woman? And we kind of paused.
Brace yourself.
But we're going to answer this on our radio show. So we want lots of interaction. Phone in, message in, and let us know what you think. But we're going to have that discussion on our Black Table Talks right now. So, Rahima, we're talking about the Gambia. Are you single? And ready to mingle?
Man.
It's complicated.
What is it like? What is it like for a single woman in the Gambia?
Well, the Gambia, there is a social order in the Gambia around marriage, and it is that women should be married. And it is a country where many people practice polygamy, which is the marriage of more than one wife. And so when you're older, mature like myself, you're gonna find that most of the men are married. And but oftentimes they'll still come at you like, you know, you could be their second or third wife, if you're interested.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the most that I can say. There's a lot that I can say, but that's what I would start with. To be cognizant of the fact that people have, it's not only like we might say people have big respect for marriage, but it's a little bit beyond just respect for marriage. It's also a lot of social pressure. So women that are married here, they may be in a miserable marriage, but they will not divorce. They won't go through the whole rigmarole of divorce, and oftentimes family doesn't want them to divorce, even when things are not going proper in the family. And then I've also met people here who had a problem with marrying who they really wanted to marry, because the family refused them to marry the person that they love, and even the person that they went on and had children with without being married. Yeah. So it's a lot of social pressure, and it's a social order. And as V does and has done, it's critical that you really suss out and try to learn the culture, because the culture, some things may seem the same, but they may not be the same. I had a friend of mine here tell me, he's been here now about 17 years, and he was telling me about marriage here. And one thing that he said he learned, that even when people get married, they may not live together. They may not live together for months, even a year or so after they've been married. If the family decides that the woman is not ready or that the man is not ready. And the question might be, are they ready yet? No, they need another 3 months or no. So, and it's something that we never heard of in America where I came up. We didn't hear of that, where you actually work on preparing each other and the family works on preparing the partners. So there may be different dynamics that you don't know and that you may not even get a chance to know because you're marrying someone and you're not really indulged or deeply involved in the family, in the culture and the culture of the people, or the chosan, the older culture of the people here. So we might not even experience that. You might have a marriage and they let you do it a way that you're doing it because you're from the West. And you never really get to experience the depth of it. So
I think there are women that want to come to the Gambia that are single and happy to be single, and they really want to know what it's like living a single life in the Gambia. And from the discussions we've had with people, it's almost you're not supposed to be a single woman in the Gambia, and you're definitely not supposed to be living on your own as a single woman. See, have you had any experience of that?
Yes, there's either something wrong with you, or you're gay or lesbian or something if you're not with a man. The first question they'll ask you is, are you with your husband? Are you with your boyfriend? And it's like, no. It's like, why? Do I have to be? Should I be? I make this choice right now to be single. And there's this, you can meet someone and it's like, straight away, we're in love. They love you, or, I need you. And
I think that could be even after an hour.
and
Before
5 minutes.
Do you have a husband? I love you.
So I think it's hard.
Or marry me.
But depending on how you are, your mentality, what you want, because you could say, well, I'm just going to come, I can get a man like that. It depends what you want, but it is hard being single because people are looking at you like, where's your man, where's your husband, what's wrong with you? So it can be quite challenging.
And I've also heard Gambian men say that Gambian women or girls, from their young, they know they're being brought up to be a wife
to someone.
So they're learning to cook and to clean and to do for, because that's what they're learning. And for some as well, it's to get away from that village, growing old, born and growing old in that village. But I think as a single woman coming from the UK, coming from the US, living in the Gambia, it's not acceptable. So that woman will be harassed, would you say,
Yes.
or chased by men?
Yes.
Because
you're alone. Because you're alone, they just assume.
I might love to come in.
Yes,
Mello,
we need you here, Mello.
Thank you.
We need a man's point of view. A Gambian man's point of view.
All right. Well, I might not be on the camera front. Well, I would love to take part on that particular portion. When you talk about marriage in the Gambia, Gambia is based on the religious aspect. You have, when it comes to the Islamic way, what we believe in is like how you guys are just saying. If you reach the age of marriage, we believe that you should really go. If you've seen somebody that really wants your hand in marriage, first thing they will need to do, if you belong to the religion, like the Islamic religion, there are lots of things that both parties will have to go through. First, they will look into the family line. Let's say from my end, if I'm the man, so there will be a kind of like a research on that particular girl that I want to fall in love or get married with. They need to go to the family, contact them, or not directly even to the family, but then the neighbors. They will go to the neighbors to tell them, okay, I want that particular girl hand in marriage. How do you see her? Is she religious? because first, what has to count is the if you belong to the Muslim sect, is he religious? What about the family background? Are they? So, and also the character also, that has to be counted. And the second part also, like nowadays, like at our age, people are left to their decisions also.
Yes.
But when you go to like the Fulani tribe, like the point you are buttressing on, it is mostly found on that tribe, whereby a family will decide over to who you're gonna marry, or even the daughters, they are tied a rope from a very early age.
Yes.
From a very early age. So when that happens, as long as the daughter is growing up, she will just know that that particular individual is for me, and that guy will even start sponsoring the educations and family welfare and all that, till when she reaches to the level of marriage. Then it also happens on let's say with the Mandinka tribe also. That was way back in the days, but now things are really changing.
Yes.
But in that way, your first, let's say the father's first son has to be chosen by the father. So that was what was also on. But now things are really changing. So it is left with the partners to decide and get to the parents.
So can I ask you then, Melo, we talked about religion, that's important, and also the girls standing, in the community or within the neighbourhood.
Yeah.
So as non-Gambians coming into Gambia, how does that work then if the women, then they're not Muslim? So if a man in the community likes a woman that is non-Gambian, and she's not a Muslim, does that mean it's a no-no? How does that work?
No, it works because there is no line in our religious book that will say total condemnation to a Muslim guy getting married to a woman. There are always rooms, for both partners to work smoothly. To either, like in our way, we will say there is a kind of like an option for one to kind of like, if we might call it in a Christian, like baptize or turn into our next religion. So we believe with the man, he has that strong energy to be able to convert one into his religion than the feminine part, shadowing over him to transfer. So it is open. So you can easily engage in with a woman. It doesn't matter, which religion he is coming from. She is coming from. Yeah.
So you're saying that?
Yeah.
Can I ask this question?
No,
please?
Please.
I think we all want to ask the same question.
Not yet even finished. But also, if the woman is not ready to convert to Muslim, to be a Muslim, they still can live together.
Okay.
Yeah. There is that rule.
Okay, but when you're getting married or you're getting with someone who's a non-Gambian, there is an expectation that they will convert to Muslim.
They will convert.
Okay.
Okay, that was the first question. The second one was, so if you are a Gambian woman and you choose somebody who is non-Gambian and non-Muslim, are you saying that is frowned upon, and that is because you're saying it's more difficult for a woman to convert a man to the Muslim culture than it is for a man to convert a woman?
Yeah, the same thing applies. But then, most of the times, the man he is trying to get married to will convert. It happens here.
Really?
Yeah, it happens here a lot.
But are they converting because,
maybe
it's their heart and faith, or are they converting because they just want to marry this woman and they're actually not going to be practicing?
Some will convert to get rid of the barriers that is blocking them from getting married. Even you will say, if the woman, like the girl, if she is not that a believer or practicing Muslim, he might even encourage the partner. Yeah, let's just do this. We can just get married. At the end of the day, you can just do what you have to do. So it depends, but it depends on the faith, on what they are all deciding.
Yes.
Yeah. I was gonna just ask first.
Yeah.
Does anyone recall like how this was navigated prior to Islam in this area? Like,
well, from my perspective, growing up as a youth and from a Muslim background, everything that we go, it has to be in accordance with the rules of the book.
but what about from your grandfather,
Yeah.
your great grandfather, before Islam? Was it that people had to be following a particular religion, or was it that people had to marry someone that was a part of the same ethnic group? Like back then, before, whatever stories that you've heard or recollect, was it that Jola married Mandink, or, like those situations like that, or prior to this Islamic thing? Because prior to that, people had their own different spiritual works. They had their own spiritual works. That's one part. The other part is, so if a woman is Christian and the man is Muslim, is it that they can only get together if there's the plan for converting for one?
No, they can get married. They can get married.
They can live together and be together.
Yeah, they can.
Comme Geloa.
Yeah,
We have a question from Adrienne. I think, sorry Adrienne, I'm trying to say your name right, but Adrienne Sedella Brown. She's actually saying, my guess is you may not stay single. See?
Me?
No. In the Gambia.
That I want to stay single.
No, that.
It depends on you. I've been here the whole time I've been here and been single.
But it's been difficult.
You have to fight them off, and no, and sometimes you have to say yes, I am married. Luckily, I wear a ring on my finger, so sometimes I have to say yes, I am married, because you want to get to know people, and not only do I expect to get to know your culture, you need to get to know my culture too, and get to understand me and how I work, because I find there's an assumption that if you're going to give you the Muslim man, you're going to have to convert at some point. You're going to have to know how we work. There's no interest in how you really work.
Yeah, this is even why when it comes to the conversion, it is not when it applies to the man to the woman. The book believes there is an allowance for one to think about the religion, giving you that span to know, to explore into it, and finally to be able to make your own decisions at your own will that you really wanted to. But if you don't really want it to, the marriage is always possible.
I think that I think that in the UK there are social norms in terms of dating, and in terms of romance, and in terms of meeting somebody, living together. Sometimes I think the average is maybe 2-3 years of living together or dating before one gets married.
100%.
Now, in the Gambia,
next week
you can be asked, will you marry me within a month?
Within the day.
Okay, I was being kind, girl. Now, Mello, why is that? I mean, when a man meets a woman who's non-Gambian, because we're non-Gambian, and after 2 days it can say, I want to marry you. How does he know he wants to marry this woman when he doesn't even know anything about her?
Well, I would say it's out of desperation.
Poverty.
Yes, out of that,
Yes.
Yeah, because from my own point, I wouldn't really take that risk to bring in somebody that I don't hardly know. Before even my wife that I've got married to, we've been in relationship for almost 9 years. The 10th year we get married.
So you know her.
Very well.
So when people think it's the culture, so people come and say, oh, I met him and after 1 month he wants to marry me, that's part of the Gambian culture. It is not part of the Gambian culture.
It's got desperation.
No,
it is. Say it as it is. It is desperation, and it's about money.
Yeah, out of that.
Or poverty, should I say?
Out of that.
So
we have lots of people. But there are also people that will look into this aspect that I'm telling you. Yeah, that will not just go into relationship just for the sake of getting there.
Yeah, they want to get to know the woman and where she's from.
You have to make your calculations, that because as a believer or a practicing Muslim, marriage, it is something that Allah creates. But if you also get married, this is something that, he hates most. Among the things that he hates most is, breaking up marriage. So this is even why married, no matter what, we really try to, sort things out. So it is not easily broken down. Once it is there, but at the end of the day, we all looking out to solve the problem. So when it gets to divorce, till maybe the final solution has to be to
divorce.
Yeah, that has to happen. That has to take place. Okay. Yeah.
Rahima, you wanted to ask a question?
Earlier, when we mentioned, when they were saying that it's common to date someone for 2 to 3 years prior to marriage, you said no. That was your response. I thought that was your response. When they said in the UK it's typical for someone to date 2 to 3 years before marrying, and you said no.
Maybe
no.
I was nodding my head,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
I didn't get that. I think I said
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
like a perfect example is
I know. I understood.
Yeah,
I heard you
yeah,
say that. That's
yeah,
why I was
yeah.
backing up to that.
Yeah.
So going back to romance, see.
Yes.
So are Gambian men romantic?
No.
No. Why do you say? Sorry, I don't want to generalise. From your experience, why do you say that?
Because it's just a straight. There's no. Can I take you out to dinner? Can I get to know you? Or even wanting to get to know you or asking you questions about yourself. There's just. It's hard to explain.
Straight to the point.
It's just a kind of straight, it'd be like, oh, I like you. And then when you're asking, okay, so what is it that you like about me? There's not much that they can say that will stimulate you in order to say, okay, yes, And the romance, there's, okay, finding out what you like to entertain you in that way. So if you like going to the beach, maybe make some dates on the beach or midnight walk or stuff like. There's none of that. There's no, there's no deep and meaningful getting to find out the essence of you and what you about and what really makes you tick and the good and bad about you and even trying to help to build you.
Do you resonate with that, Melo?
Choco Birama is
Yeah.
He's asking.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to that question too.
Right, we're laughing because Chuka Barama Juve says, Melo Jeme, as today's topic is about marriage, is there any single lady among the panelists? If so, please keep me and I'm in search of a second wife.
Oh, that's the other issue here.
We're going to talk about multiple wives now. Thank you, Chuka. Now you can have. Oh, he's married. Yeah, he wants the second one. Yeah. Now you can have up to 4 wives. Is that correct?
Yeah, when it comes to the religious part of it, let's say the Muslims, they are entitled up to 4.
But I was the wife.
Huh? But why?
Yeah, it is according to the book that we practice and we believe in. Yeah.
Is that a case of that maybe there's more women to men? Is that?
Yeah, and also to at least for men to be able to control themselves in a relationship, instead of going out to play whilst you are married. If at all one wife is not enough for you, before going out to play with other girls outside marriage, get another one.
Is that the reason men can have more than
among
one?
Among one of the reasons.
Wow.
Wow.
So in other words, instead of going out to play outside the marriage, you play with it sanctioned by marriage. but it's still the same thing.
But isn't that a kind of part of African spirituality because of the polygamy? It is part of African spirituality, isn't it?
What, polygamy?
Yeah, that they were allowed to have many wives and so forth. But yeah, I'm sure. No?
No, not to my understanding. To my understanding, from my teachers, what I learned was that polygamy is practiced, but it's not even always. It's oftentimes the exception. So even if someone had several wives, not 4, talking about before Islam, several wives, it wasn't that everybody did that. It was the exception. So I wanted to back to romance. So I have met Gambians that do delve in and want to know about you, will ask you all kind of questions about yourself, what you do, what you love to do, want to engage, want to work with you, want to partner with you, want to build with you. So I've met Gambians that are like that.
And I think Papa J has a comment, and he's saying courting and engaging before married is in the Gambia, but mainly within the Christian community. So if you've meet Christians, they may engage. But somebody else, Manima Sanyang, she's saying they can marry. So we're talking about Christians and Muslims. Now they can marry, but if they have children, this can cause problems. And I think my understanding is the children will need to be brought up as Muslims. So if a Christian and a Muslim get married and then they have children, is that correct, Melo?
Yeah, I believe that's the point he is driving at, because each one of them would love to keep their spiritual side of it and trying to nurture the kids through that route. So if they are all believers and want to practice their own religion and want to, inject that one into the kid, there comes the problem.
And that may cause problems, because if somebody's a Christian and the other partner's a Muslim and they have children, and the Christian wants the child to be brought up as a Christian, what happens then?
Yeah, depending on how the parents want to take it. Depending on how they want to take it. So this is even why the emphasis is laid on, once you get married to a non-believer, like from our end we call it.
Yes.
Yeah, try your best to convert. Yeah, so that both of you can be in the same line. But if he is on the B lane, you are on the A lane, there is a likelihood at the end of the journey, things like this might happen.
Okay, the other question that we've had quite a lot of this week, very controversial topic, and it's also been in the British media about older women and younger men. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, Melo, and be honest. Now, in the Gambia, is it seen amongst the Gambian community an age difference in relationships or marriage? Do you have older Gambian women marrying younger Gambian men, or even vice versa within the Gambian community?
Okay, yeah, well, when you talk about the age gap, there is there is, but then not that too much gap. Not that too much gap. Like how we are seeing it, like from the western side.
Yes.
Blacks getting married to almost
their grandmothers or mothers.
Half walking dead women. You know what I'm saying?
Have what?
Walking dead. Walking dead.
Well, it is all based on interest. Like you said, it depends on who is getting into it. Yeah, but you have also lots of conscious people that might even think about getting into that kind of route. Yeah, but then for the sake of money or whatever, there are people that can also, sacrifice to do stuff like that. Yeah.
So then we're going back to really when we talked about marry, I want to marry you in 1 week. It's also about if you're an older woman, a young man may follow you, but it's usually around poverty and around desperation, I think you
Out
said.
of desperation, as I call it.
And sometimes they're looking for a saviour, you know, to save them from the life that they've had and wanting a better life. You know, it's a survival mechanism as well.
And I think it's something that was happening historically for a while. I think in the early days, I think, was it the Swedish and people from Europe used to come and visit Norway, you said, visit Gambia. And a lot of them took the Gambians back to their country, and they made good, and they were able to be successful and come back and start businesses and build houses. And a lot of the Gambians saw this and thought, well, actually the only way I can make money is to marry and they used the word tubab, and then if I marry a tubab, then I'll be able to get a visa and travel and have money or even if they don't travel, they'll have money to build their homes and things in the Gambia. But it's got a lot of controversy over the last few weeks, and a programme aired in the UK about this, and some of the women are like in their 60s and 70s, and the boys are in their 20s. So what do you think about that, Rahima?
I think,
Go ahead.
Okay. I think that the level of, first of all, the level of desperation to marry and to get visas and to leave Africa is not just based around poverty. I think you kind of brought it to me before, we talked about it. The fact that the social pressure is so intense that people don't have the liberty to share and really express themselves in the community. And even what we were just talking about with marriage, even the freedom to marry. You know, I've got a girlfriend that was married at age 14, I mean, by her family, you know. So I think that some of the desperation is very true. I never understood it. I've been married to a younger man. And I didn't really understand the desperation until I saw the two brothers trying to trek across the snow from America to Canada to keep from being deported back to Ghana. And I just left Ghana, and Ghana wasn't that bad. You know, maybe it was just my perspective. But to see those brothers lose all their fingers on their hand and their toes from their feet, to grow old without that because of the desperation to not go back, really brought home to me a different kind of reality about the desperateness of brothers wanting to marry and what they'll do, how they will compromise their legitimacy, their honesty and everything to do that.
Well then, would you say then that marriage is not always about love then? The way we view marriage in the UK is that you meet somebody, you fall in love, and it's this whole romanticism of a relationship. And in Gambia,
Absolutely.
it might be that you meet somebody and you like them, and you feel that you are responsible for your family, not just you, because a lot of the people, it's not just a responsibility of you, it's for your father and your mother and your family. So therefore you want to be with this woman who can help you in a situation. But I think I've talked to quite a few women, and what they've said is if men would come truthful, then they wouldn't mind supporting and helping them in a situation.
Exactly.
But if a man comes and says, I love you, when he doesn't love you, and I want to marry you, when actually he wants to marry you for what you can do for him, that's where the problem lies. See? Do you have a last word on this?
Not at the moment, no.
Well, thank you for joining us. We've had a very interactive show. Somebody is saying, do Muslim in the Gambia get engaged now?
Engage. Well, I would say people call themselves Muslims, like myself, but it is against the teachings of our book laid down that you shouldn't even get yourself engaged, like, you know, getting very closer to even a girl that you are not even married to.
Okay.
It is against it. So, but then it is left to us to our discretions to go against, which is also you're going to be accountable for. That I admitted doing, I did it. Like I said, it was like 10 years. We've been in relationships before getting married. So we do fall in love before, but then it is against our book does not condone it. So you know, if you want to get married to a woman, you will have to get through the right rules. You know, you don't need to be playing around with her, and you know, destroy his future. Because at the end of the day, that's what it does. Most of the people that goes with the intention of even getting married to a woman with that even pure intention, but during that engagement, if something happens, ugly happens within that time, a change of mind does comes. For instance, if during that relationship, you happen to have contact and pregnancy comes out of that, things might turn ugly. At the end of the day, the other side is you put them on an injury, and the next minute you went away to get married to a next one.
Yes. Right.
So these are some of the things, the teachings that are within these, rules that they've laid down, so that we don't go close to those lanes.
Okay, I think for another day we're going to talk about Gambian marriages. We're going to talk about the first, second, third and fourth wife. People, even from the Western culture, they're actually engaging in that and understanding and actually agreeing with that, but we're going to talk about that on another show. But thank you for joining us. And in terms of a Western woman coming to the Gambia, as a single woman, it's possible. It's going to be difficult because a lot of Gambian men don't understand that a woman is single. And when we tell them, England is full of single women. There's something wrong with this picture. England is full of single women. Gambia is full of single men.
Yeah, true.
The two need to get together. But yes, so it's going to be a difficult one. You're going to be chased. A lot of Gambian men are going to want to be with you. They might ask you to marry them within a week. Don't take it seriously.
Right. Any Gambian woman would tell you that.
And so yeah, it's possible. Come. If you're a single woman, come. Meet other single women. Meet a lot of Gambian women that are married and single, and understand the culture. The first thing, even your mate, it's important to understand the culture before you even understand your mate, because understanding the culture will allow you to understand the person you choose to be your husband. Or if you're a single man, as I've shown for another day, it will allow you to understand your wife. So understand the two things in Gambia: the culture, the religion, and learn the language. Yes. But thank you for joining us, and a heartfelt thank you to C for sharing her heart and sharing her experience and her journey.
Thank you.
And thank you to Rahima for joining me again. This is my sidekick, my partner. And thank you, Mello. He didn't think he was going to be part of this show, but we always need a male perspective, and Spider's not here this week. So thank you for your contribution, Mello. And you guys that are watching, thank you so much. Obi, Danielle, Manima, Cheeky Chuku, I would say. Christine, Danielle, Vanessa,
Val,
Lamin, Lorna. There's many more, but we thank you. But as I said, please continue to comment on the video stream. Continue to send in questions. We will be posting inbox. Continue to write in the inbox. We will answer all your questions. And next week, we'll be posting beforehand what the topics will be, so you can still write in and ask questions that you want to be answered, but you don't want to ask it live. Okay? Yes. But thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
So, Empire Radio 1, the People's Radio Station, Jamaica V,
Rahima,
Seymour,
and Seymour. Thank you.
Yes, on behalf of all of us, thank you so much. Yeah.
Turn by turn, everything in life is turn by turn. But
I know the next time, so wait until he.
Everything in life is done by God. Turn by turn, everything in life is turn by turn. Brother man, relax and wait for your turn. Everything in life is done by God. Ramos Yod, Kilos Yod, Ubi Lafta Kame, Maria Yo Kilos Yod, Ramos Yod, Kilos Yod, Ubi Lafta Kame, Maria Yo Kilos Yod. Trouble, I will stay away. If you want to fight, you can fight alone. Them love, boogie love, and them money feel me, but I'm problem. Them love, boogie love, and them money feel me, but I'm problem. Turn by turn, everything in life is turn by turn. Brother man, relax and wait for your turn. Everything in life is done by God. Turn by turn, everything in life is done by turn. Brother man, relax and wait for your turn. Everything in life is done by God. Ramos Yod, Kilos Yod, Ubi Lafta Kame, Maria Yo Kilos Yod, Ramos Yod, Kilos Yod, Ubi Lafta Kame, Maria Yo Kilos Yod. Muka kontanyo la kairora, unatima kakorontonyo la korola. Muka kontanyo la kairora, unatima kakorontonyo la korola. Mulu mankang, mulu mankang, mulu mankang. Mulu lojel, sama blessing. Kanara mula, di multa bukamara, ni la kulo voice waitia. Turn by turn, everything in life is turn by turn. Brother man, relax and wait for your turn. Everything in life is turn by God. Turn by turn, everything in life is turn by turn. Brother man, relax and wait for your turn. Everything in life is done by God. Ramos Yod, Kilos Yod, Ubi Lafta Kame, Maria Yo Kilos Yod, Ramos Yod, Kilos Yod, Ubi Lafta Kame, Maria Yo Kilos Yod. Unatima, muka kontanyo la kairora, unatima, kakorontonyo la korola.
Interviewing Gambian women because there's Gambian women that are just not happy.
I want to say to that woman that one or something.
Yeah, they're not happy being a second or third. And
also they don't in the first
Osi Connections mbadi Osi Connections bali gunjur ton table ika service jamale kali kabirin nopal credit wa folem bam fay lafta jamale bam fay lafta kilin talla nko jakalo bante dalale ite membe sidin sokone katu mira la wato wati ibe credit ko soto la nyandil Osi Connections manda nopal credit wa fo damala ika iodized salt fana wa fali ene menketa koti nka mendo mo luolu ndeni te be yal nako do moro ne te do mo la mukko ko mamma be dami annu Osi Connections bukan nanko doron ko wa fali made ika kole wa fi ko me yalon ko ay iodine le soto hanin na jata kende ya bunda fango ye wole nyinyandi ko nyanta ka wole domo kato wole bete yata na jata kende yato ako e boro soto menketa iodine ti anyinyata anda ko ko italew nyin ko le mu koti menyanta ka do mo luolu ni ka ko do me yalon ko amang iodine soto asatin ne isi kufo soto ikangoto warang asi bala suto sinola asi dinno la mengo nasindi asi ke mo hakilu ko ma bati karam mo to fana wotali fere ke alkari aussi connections la ko sa me yalan ko way ayedin soto le membe tankala nyimbela aussi connections man dan ko wa fo fanando e ka approve service transfer fanan kali yenne ni e kodo ki yenan ka bo banta la banko to isite la kodo tano jele ka tambi approve service transfer la aussi connections ko kanyin kali yenne luwolu e buka tili sawonde e ka yelali yesomanda talan se kata fo talan konon to suto tenelunga kata fo arjuma lungo talan se somanda kata fo talan se suto sibito anindi maso aussi connections allafta fen ferandi lon na memman ke nyinta ali ka tanyo ya ila telephone to bank 795-7815 waran 3434260 aussi connections allafta nopal credit la wato wati ko sen ngo me yalan ko abete ata na jata kende yato ani approve service transfer kodoto ali ka tanyo ya aussi connections ali mutaterity
connections, and I'm here to talk to some of their customers.
Badingol company mi ka fay ko Red Star family Gambia dingol le tamu ibale gunjur sate kono jang karamba kunda loptan sila bakang wala nata ke nyonta mutu doku fason jamala fo inin lojo lu karambolu community pakolu anum dula jabaka doku ke folo e motol sude kamin lo wasi jamalia animo kilin nalia kala moto tinyan ne chika silol kan ke sama allafte samala dawo o montolia kundinete ko Red Star family hanimbi ka jama da hande Bahama Soul Train anim fanan nasib lam masingul fanan bebu nal sulla talasiro fasawo fasabe imanda woda malade luas fen jamal fanan be bulu min yalon ko e ka wolle fanan luas molia wedin sirangolo ini tabulu nyimalu jilene tibalu lampu jango min sa fanan duro ke dula janna anim fanan selen selen dama min be jam farin adum be betarin fanan nko abeta satana no jam la lafta doku cinema doku kenema anim doku betemala alta Red Star family ka chanjo ya nyin number to 9911353 4486841 email redstarfamilycompany@gmail.com 9911353 4486841 email redstarfamilycompany@gmail.com
God of mercy, why